Hi, so we're here with one of the most talented and hilarious artists to step out of South London since Desmond Ambrose closed his barbershop back in 1994. Mo Gilligan, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you for having me. The South London Film Festival, big ups, big ups. So yeah, thank you very much. But I'm good, thank you.
Well, Mo, listen, you started off by making videos by yourself, editing them yourself, and posting on social media, to now becoming one of the most biggest recognized and award-winning comedians of modern times. So, how does that feel?
Um, I don't know. I think sometimes when I look back at the way I've started and the accolades that I've accumulated now, there are a lot of times it doesn't sink in, but I definitely feel that, when I was making those small videos, I didn't know I'd get to the stage where I am now. I didn't do it for that. I just done it because there was just ways to express my creativity. That I was doing a lot of things in the videos that I couldn't do in stand-up comedy. And everything that's come along with it is sometimes almost like a bonus, if anything. Do you know what I mean? Like when you do get like awards or you get to do TV shows, because for me, it's just always like, always goes back down to like, I wanted to just make people laugh. That's always like the main fundamental thing. Do you know what I mean? But yeah, in my short space of doing the videos to doing like TV, and it's yeah, it's exciting. And for me, it's always like, each year I'm always, I don't know what's going to happen next in my life. You know what I mean? Like, as opposed to my career. So yeah, it's an exciting time, and it's been fun because, like, people like yourself have like followed the journey. So it's been really fun.
Do you feel like growing up in the sunny tropics of Camberwell in South London has made any difference to the way you see life and your content?
Definitely. I think a lot of my comedy is shaped around the environment that I've grown up in and live in. So whether it's me portraying like, a roadman talking to, trying to chat up a girl or girls on a night out, these are all things that, I've grown up around and I've seen. Do you know what I mean? So I try to really portray, my environment in the most positive light as well. And also just like, as I said, when you're from South London, it comes with this like, there's an added sense of pressure. Do you know what I mean? Because it's like, if you want to make anyone laugh, it's people that are from like your community, first of all. Do you know what I mean? That's just the first thing. And then you go out to this wider, utopia of like the UK and then abroad and America and all this stuff. So yeah, it's definitely shaped the comedy I have, but at the same time, it's telling that story to the world about what London really is. Do you know what I mean? Especially South London as well. We are very prominent. When South London's in the room. So it's really trying to show that kind of type of comedy as such.
You've mentioned before that some of the things your proudest moments is obviously you won a BAFTA for the latest show, which is
Oh, okay,
amazing,
man. Thank you.
and your Netflix special is incredible.
Oh, thanks, bro.
With all the momentum, you see what I did there, you built this year. What happened this year? How did 2020 affect you?
Well, I guess for me, 2020 was just the year of just like, you know, we planned to do a world tour. Like this year was looking like the biggest year that I would have in terms of traveling the world, doing stand-up comedy. Netflix had a festival. I was going to perform out there. You had the likes of Kevin Hart there and Chris Rock. So already, this was like the first year I was going into where there was major things planned, and then it just stopped. And a part of me was just like, okay, it stopped. But at the same time, we just strategize. That's what you do. I'm not going to sit by the phone being like, oh, okay, well, I'll wait for something to come in. It's just like, cool, we'll just do some more videos. We'll, put up different content. I've got a green screen. I've just put it down, but behind me, I've got like lights and cameras and this wheel from Quarantine Games. It's just using like, it's like, how do you utilize your time? Do you know what I mean? Like when things like this happen, it's very important the way that we utilize our time, especially as creatives, because as a creative, we are often sitting by the phone sometimes because you're like, cool, something may come in, that happens. But there's also a time where it's like, I need to work for something to come in. Do you know what I mean? Or keep myself active. So for me, like when everything happened with, COVID, it was a time to say, all right, cool, let me try and use this green screen. Let me start learning how to use, certain apps like Final Cut and start to edit. And, and they don't, as I said, like they don't need to be perfect, but it's just a way of just learning a new skill. Because, I was saying to a friend of mine recently, when this happens, you're going to get so many people who've come out on one side who just like, yeah, I just chilled out and watched Soprano box sets. And you've got another set of people who are like, yeah, I wrote a book, I wrote a film, I wrote a script play, because it's how to utilize your time as a creative. And that's okay if you're a creative, you just want to watch Sopranos and do that, that's all right as well, you know, but there's always that thing with any creative where how do you keep your mind active? So for me, it was very important to just crack on with what kind of got me there, really. Do you know what I mean? Go back down to the foundations, create videos, create content, come with concepts, quarantine games, you know, Channel 4 picked it up and it got on TV. So I think for me, it was one of those things where you just have to try and work somehow. Do you know what I mean? You've got to really push yourself. And I think that's most probably what's happened with a lot of creatives. How do I push myself at a time where no one's pushing me? Do you know what I mean? So, yeah.
That's good. And actually leads to the next question, because we've been watching a lot of your lockdown, you know, your shorts and your sketches. And we wondered, you know, are you ever thinking about getting into acting full time? And have you got any advice for the aunties down Lewisham Market that admire your weave? It's in really good condition.
So, yeah. So basically for me with acting, it's, you know, I come from an acting background as such. You know, I went college and studied it, university, got a degree in performing arts and theatre production. So there will be a time, hopefully, where I can get into acting. But at the moment, with what I currently have, I don't want to be a person who has, you know, I'm doing this, I'm doing so many things, but I'm not putting 100% into it. I think at the moment, with the amount of work and stuff I have on, it's very important to really hone my crafts into that project 100%. Do you know what I mean? Because with acting, it's not something I want to just get into because I'm, you know, my name's a bit more popular than it was before. Do you know what I mean? And I think it's also very important that some of the opportunities that come, I don't always have to take, you know, whether it is like some acting or self-tapes. It's like, you know what, there's mostly someone else out there that really wants this a bit more than I do right now. You know, and there's going to be a time where I'm going to want that opportunity, but it's very important that I don't take everything. It's very important that you say, do you know what, maybe that's not for me. That's someone else that's going to really appreciate that and do an amazing job because I'm really busy with this other project. So hopefully, yes, fingers crossed, there will be some acting jobs in the pipeline. So yeah, fingers crossed. Yeah, with the weaves, do you know what? Yeah, like it's so funny because whenever I do a video, like I put up a video yesterday called like a night out, and obviously like with the characters, like the wigs just allow me to do more characters, but I've had the same wigs for like 2 years now. So if there's any hair shops that want to give me a re-up, I'm here for it, man.
You know, one of the things you mentioned recently was that you're not a fan of horror films. So what movies got you through lockdown?
So, okay, basically, we see with horror films, yeah, I just don't like the kind of, you know, when there's like ghosts or spirits or anything where it's like the paranormal, I'm not involved. But I do like a horror that has a bit of suspense. There's a murder on the loose or something. Do you know what I mean? Like, or there's like, yeah, like, you know, those kind of horrors where you can put yourself in them, but I still put my hands behind my eyes as such. But I think for me, what got me down in, especially the kind of films I started really looking at in lockdown was like, I started watching a lot of films from like 1985 to like 99. And sorry, like 95. So basically like films like Coming to America, Planes, Trains and Automobiles, you know, all those films that are just like real classic films. I started watching all those phases of films, Brewers Millions, because I think like now sometimes the honus is whenever I watch films now, because of the level of TV series, I'm expecting a good film for an hour because I can watch a box set for like 6-7 hours. Do you know what I mean? So when I watch a film, I think I expect a little bit more from it, especially if it's a new film. So yeah, for me, like I've watched a lot of older films, man, especially like anything from like 1985 to like 95. That's like my little region of films because it kind of takes me back to like when I was a kid and I'd watch some of these films or some of the kind of action films in the 90s. So like films like, do you remember that film Waterworld?
Oh yeah, yeah.
That film, do you know why? Because you see those films, yeah, the production was so mad, but when you watch them, yeah, they're still a bit cheesy. like, like, and I kind of like watching them now before Hollywood remake everything, basically. So it's quite nice to watch Back to the Future, and it's just that film without it being remade at the moment. So that's the kind of films that I tend to watch, you know.
It's funny you said about coming to America. I was in New York, in Queens, and I was like, oh my God, I'm in Queens. And then like I thought, I have to, man. So I went to where the old McDowell restaurant was, and it's not there anymore. But I was like taking pictures, and it's just like a normal road, and everyone's looking at me like I'm crazy. But they're making the new one, and it's coming out on Amazon.
Yes, I've seen that. Yeah.
It's looking good. Talking of lockdown, you know, we've all been ordering a lot more recently. Have you had any funny incidents with like delivery drivers who recognise you?
Do you know what? I get weirdly enough, when we get deliveries, basically because I'd get like my food shop, and early lockdown, they'd always bring it to my house. And then like when lockdown first started, they was like, yep, we're leaving it downstairs. And I'm like, oh, come on, man. And every part of me is just like, this might be the time to use my celebrity, you know, just to see if you can bring up that food. But there's been it doesn't really happen too much, but with like ordering food sometimes, do you know what I mean? Like some of the delivery drivers will like, give me the food and give me a glance. And like, bro, you're more on it. I'm like, that's me, man. If I could just get that pizza, that'll be perfect, bro. But no, not too much. Not like because a lot of the time they just like normally just kind of drop it off. But no, saying that, I did have, when we was doing quarantine games, actually, I was sending out obviously like the parcels and stuff. So the Royal Mail would do a collection. So they'd come and pick up the parcels. And this one woman was like, I had to go down to give her the parcel. And she was like, oh my God, it's you. And I was like, it's me, man. And it's you, the postwoman, man. What's up? She's like, oh my God, can I get a picture? And I was like, yeah, we're kind of social distancing, but cool, innit? So yeah, but nah, man, everyone's always like super respectful at the same time. Do you know what I mean? I remember when I first moved in, right? A friend of mine, I used to play football with him, and he's delivered something to my house. I didn't know it was him at the time. And he's knocked on the door, and then he's like, hurry up, Mo. And I was like, what? Who? Why is this delivery driver calling me? Because my name, as I said, on the delivery, it doesn't say Mo. So I was like, who's this? So this is the first time I'd moved out. So I was like, right, like, what's going on here? So I had a hammer in it. I thought, boy, I might be getting robbed. Because he banged on the door like, hurry up, man. And I was like, whoa, what's going on here? So I had a hammer and I opened the door, and he was like, and he looked kind of nervous, like, it's not Mo. And I was like, oh, Daniel. And he's like, yeah. And I was like, what are you doing? He's like, yeah, I seen your name on the delivery, and then I didn't know if it was you or not. So yeah, that was mostly the weirdest time I've ever had getting any kind of delivery as such, you know.
Going back to South London, we've got such a tight-knit community, and I personally find that whenever I leave the area, I mention the word Morley's and people look at me like I've just been released from Mars. Do you ever still get that feeling of sort of not being a little bit out of place when you're traveling and meeting big stars? And what's it like to see yourself and people like Stormzy and John Boyega, you know, really blossoming on the big stage?
Yeah, I think, you know, I realized it when I first went to the BAFTAs last year. I went to the ceremony, and that was like me going to something where I was like, whoa, this is huge. Like, you get out of, you know, you get this amazing car that comes to your house, and all these celebrities are walking around. And sometimes it's weird when some of these celebrities know you, because these are people I kind of grew up with watching. Do you know what I mean? Like, so you're like, oh my God, like, I remember Dermot O'Leary came up to me once. He's like, mate, like, I love your video that you done. And I was like, what? Dermot O'Leary knows who I am. Like, so yeah, it is always kind of like, I have a lot of pinch myself moments, you know, or being at like events where I'm like, whoa, this is like I went to, there was this GQ men's award, right? And I went to this event, and I seen, what's his name? The guy from X-Men, Magneto. The actor.
Ian McKellen.
Yeah. So I see, no, not Magneto, the other brother.
Patrick Stewart.
Yeah. So I seen him. I didn't see him, but he's in the room, and I'm like, every part of me's like, rah, there's my like Professor Xavier, you know. Because obviously I just know him by his X-Men name. So there's a couple of times I'm like, right, that's my man still. I want to get a picture, boy. But I think for me, it's like whenever I'm in them places or, you know, I get to travel around and stuff, there ain't nothing better or, you know, than just coming home. Do you know what I mean? Like, it will always feel like home. Like, you'll always feel comfortable there. We done a Google advert recently and it was in Camberwell. And, you know, you're filming on the street and people are looking, they're videoing it and stuff. And I've never felt more comfortable. You know, I didn't feel like I was even filming a commercial. I was just like, I'm just in Camberwell doing some filming. So I think that's what I really love about South London. It's like, it's at home from home. Do you know what I mean? Like, and it doesn't matter where you go in the world, like anyone, you always want to come home. Do you know what I mean? So, yeah, and I think that's the thing. That's where I think walking around, I feel the most comfortable because I know the area. I used to grow up there. Went to school in Dockland Hill. Used to play football, like, and you know, Dulwich, like East Dulwich and stuff. So yeah, it will always feel like home. Do you know what I mean? Sometimes, like when I go to get food and I'll be like near my mum's, I'll be like, I'm gonna go purposely to this shop because I know the shop, I know the woman there. Do you know what I mean? It's like 20 minutes away, but it's like, yeah, it'll always feel home from home, no matter kind of how my circumstances might change.
During lockdown, we all watched your documentary, Black, British and Funny, and I thought it was good and very powerful. And one thing that kept coming up was the sort of one in, one out system. And to me, that was quite, you know, that was quite resonating, and I found that quite striking. So I wonder, you know, what advice would you give to young people to empower them to overcome that?
I definitely think now, you know, the power is kind of, you know, it's in the young people's hands now. You know, you have like things like YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook. There are so many platforms now where if you're a young creative, you can kind of just do it yourself. You know, you've seen platforms like No Signal Radio go all over the world and become hashtags and like trend and stuff. And I think now is like people are now finding ways where, because before it was just like, oh, my video's gone viral, what do I do? But now, you know, people are seeing like, cool, you can just do more than just go viral. Do you know what I mean? I can maybe get a script commissioned from this. I could possibly get some acting work out of this. And I think it's really important that a lot of young people now really use the tools that they have around them because they're now better than ever. You know, when I first started doing my videos, I was just filming it on my phone in my bedroom, like, and it took me to a place where I am now. So I sometimes, you know, it's sometimes very easy to be like, oh, you need a great camera setup and you need a mic and you need lights and stuff like that. Like, you don't, man. You need just get one ring light. You've got a phone, crack on, man. And you've got things like TikTok that have ways you can create, you know, your content. They've got like a green screen feature, all these amazing features. And it's very important for young people now to use these tools that are around them because now they're better than ever. Do you know what I mean? They're the best that they can be, but it's also persistence. You know, you can't just do one video and say, cool, like, that's it, I've done it. It didn't get enough reaction. You have to keep going. Do you know what I mean? You have to keep going. Whether you get, you know, you might get 100 views on one video, you might get 1 million on the next, but it's really in the persistence because I think sometimes I'm very cautious of when I tell my story about how I started. It's not just, oh, you know, like I was making videos in my bedroom and yeah, like Drake put it out and I got a TV show. Because that sounds like a great story, but the reality of it is that I was doing stand-up for like 10 years and I was working in retail and I was trying to put these videos out and I was running late to work, but I just kept doing one and another one and another one. And the only reason what kept me going is that I got an audience. You know, but at the same time, it was using that creativity just to churn out some content. Let me try this one. Let me try that one. Let me try another one. So I definitely think, you know, you have to be persistent and just do it your own way. You know, if you're making whatever content that it is you like, you have an audience, you just have to be persistent in your craft. You know, you could be a YouTuber, you know, you can't stop after you've made one video, you put a lot in and you didn't get much out. You know, because I always say with any kind of creative, you'll always get tested if you really want it. And if you really want it, you'll keep going. If you don't want it, you'll just stop and say, do you know what? I've done this video of green screen effect. I thought it was great, but it didn't get enough views, so I'm out. And that's a test in you, whether you really want it. So I'd always say, you know, persistence and, you know, just do it yourself. Don't look for these gatekeepers to want to give you shows. Get to a place where you create your own shows, you know, and, you know, the gatekeeper, you don't even need them. You're like, you know what? I've got my own channel on YouTube. I'm doing great. I'm earning an income from it. So I don't know if I really want to do TV. And I think that's the position that the next generation are going to be in. They're going to be the ones who are calling the shots, you know? So, yeah, I think it's a really exciting time at the moment, you know?
What's 2021 and onwards looking like for Mo Gilligan?
Yeah, you know, the latest show is going to return next year, which I'm really happy about. Not so much for me, but just for other people. People really liked it. And it was a way that we could, you know, have that high entertainment show that people really felt like, oh, right, like I feel like a part of this. I feel like I know this guy and I want to go to that show. Or, you know, hopefully one day I'm going to be on that couch. And yeah, so that I'm really excited for that to come back. And then, yeah, you know, we've got the tour. The tour was going to be this year, moved it back to next year. So I feel like we have enough time for COVID to kind of hopefully be out the way next year. 'Cause it's next year, September. So yeah, you know, fingers crossed that everything can be back to normal and it's safe for people to come out again, you know. So yeah, man, just looking forward to getting back on stage. I think if I've missed anything this year, it's being on stage. Like, I've really missed doing stand-up comedy. Like, I think I've written so much now that I'm a bit like, yeah, I think I've written like 3-4 specials. It's like I've just written and there's nowhere to perform it. So yeah, man, I was looking forward to getting back on the stage.
There was one other question that one of our members asked us, and you know, not only are you a very funny comedian, but you're also a very talented musician. So when are you going to release your album? And secondly, who would you like to see featured on your next nursery rhyme anthem?
Okay, so yeah, it's so weird because now I finally have the right equipment that I could actually record. Because before I would always say, you know, I really want to do music. I'm going to release it. I always said, look, I'm going to release a Bashment album one day. Just be ready for it. But now I actually have the right equipment. So it will happen soon, innit? There'll be a video track in there. There'll be a geezer track in there. Someday I will release some form of music. I don't know what it will be, but yeah, I'll definitely look at doing something. I think at the moment, it's like, I don't know if anyone really has got the patience for me to be like, gluten. I don't know if anyone's got the patience at the moment, but yeah, like I'm just a big fan of music in general. I listen to loads of music. Like every day I think I listen to music. So I'm just a big fan of music. I don't think I'd ever do it as a serious profession, if I'm honest. More just so like a comedy kind of vibe. But definitely one day, but soon. It's so funny because as you're talking, I've got a mic I'm looking at right now. Eddie Murphy released a track, you know, with Rick James. So, hey, man, there's still a bit more time left, you know.
Anyway, Mo, thank you so much for your time. And
no worries,
thanks for taking the time to talk to us. We really appreciate it. You're a massive hero to many people. And please keep making South London proud. And hopefully you'll be releasing a film which will be submitted to our festival and you'll win some more awards on the way.
Oh, most definitely, man. Thanks for your time, man. I really enjoyed the Q&A. So, yeah, thanks a lot, bro.